What is going on, everybody? Welcome into a special Saturday edition of the Daily Energy Newsbeat Stand-Up here on this gorgeous, as I mentioned, Saturday, November 4th, 2023. Here for our weekly recap. I've got Stuart Turley here. He's the director and publisher of the world's greatest website, energynewsbeat.com. It is a busy week this week. A lot of good shows, a lot of good stuff. Nice full week. It's to be a good one.
It's a fantastic week, and I want to give a shout out to our folks that are reaching in. It's just unbelievable. We have Tim Kalen, who is a renewable energy management. They're a storage outfit that are a new startup. I don't like storage or things that have to have subsidies, and he's got a renewable one. We also have Dan with Combo Curve. It's coming out, so we got some big ones coming out this weekend.
Yes, we got to get Dan's out. We love them over at Combo Curve. So, all right, guys, enough of it. We're gonna go kick it over to the weekly recap. But as always, the stories you're about to hear are brought to you again by the world's greatest website. Check us out online. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Smash that like button if I was a YouTuber. But it's now time for the weekly recap. We'll see you on Sunday, guys.
It is pretty interesting. Europe's wind power goal hits a new snag, security. Michael, do you remember when some random guy on Substack brought out the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2? And we found out he was saying that there's even one theory that the Ukraine on a yacht parked it right over the Nord Stream 1 and 2. And we're going, holy smokes, what a bunch of morons. So let me just tee this up. Russia's had some subs going around the whole North Sea, and there is a lot in here. Turbines have no barriers or surveillance. The guy interviewed in this article says we check out at 5 o'clock. Okay, what a great job, Michael. These guys are on the field. They go out and they work in the field. It's an hour out there by boat. You turn two screws. It's lunchtime. Then you go back, and then you got an hour trip back. If you're out by 5, this is great work. Now, there's two quotes in here.
You have these offshore wind farms, which are in international waters or governmental waters, but the government is saying that the operators should be in charge of security. But as you said, head of Nystad Wind, co-owned by and operated by Denmark-based Ørsted, the world's biggest offshore wind developer, our technicians go home at 5 p.m., as they should necessarily. We don't have people working 24/7 shifts, but something's got to give here, because they bring up, you're right. If this quote he told Reuters, if the Russians wanted to cause damage, they very easily could. Quote, we don't do any monitoring. That's kind of wild to say in a public setting.
Isn't that crazy? Now, let me throw this squirrel at you. This is an ugly squirrel that's about to hit this one. Senator Lindsey Graham said we need to bomb Iraq's oil production. He said that. So, and that would be in order to do, damage to their cash flow. So if you sit back and kind of go, we got all these people going after energy security around the world. And if we don't do it, and I don't want us to, believe me, I want this on record. I don't want us taking out Iran's oil. There's ways of enforcing sanctions, but Israel might. So if you take Israel and you take this escalating, and then you take, I'm serious, a wind farm, even Hamas can get a thing and take out North Sea.
I disagree a little with you. I'm going to disagree with you halfway on the fact that I'm not sure if the actual physical security. I think Russia and Hamas have better things to do than go blow up a wind farm that's keeping 3 houses online. What I think is interesting, and what this article points out, is if you go about halfway down here, Developers like Ørsted think governments should take the lead and help provide billions of dollars needed to protect their infrastructure. This is a money grab, Stu.
It is.
Hey, we're scared. It's security. While we actually are losing $1 billion and need to make up for the fact that we're losing billions on offshore wind farms by you have to now pay for security.
I think it's fantastic. That is a fantastic point. And honestly,
I'm going to. You could blow up a wind farm. Russia's got better things to do than take their nuclear-powered subs and roll them through Norway's farms. I don't know. That just seems to me like they've got bigger fish to fry.
You've got a fantastic point, and I want to say, well done. You did good. And honestly, if I was putting myself in Putin, I would say, hey, I don't need to blow up a wind farm. I just let it die because it's not sustainable.
Because they're not making money, so build more. Putin probably wants more wind farms.
Yeah, they're all not building anymore, and they can't afford to maintain them. All right, the next story follows along with the other one with energy security in the North Sea. And when we talk about this article, it says hostile political attitude to the North Sea and gas threatens energy security. So it's not only the wind farms that are sitting ducks out there. And this is going to be, I did not know how much actually is out there in the North Sea. Knew it was a lot, but let's talk about how much may leave. Let's come in here, and I am going all the way down in here, and it says the North Sea is the only basin where outlook for surplus of high specification of drilling rigs, meaning other regions more competitive for business with longer work durations and higher rates and offer. Once these units leave the UK, increasingly, it is unlikely that they will return. That was in the OE, which is the Energy UK 2023 Annual Economic Report. Let me get you some numbers. It is 6 wells have started drilling so far this year. At least one more is expected. Shell and one well, Pensacola, which started drilling in late 2022, have recoverable resources of almost 1 million BOE. Here's where the problem is. Once these leave, the amount of oil rigs that were funded and in project last year are down 30 to or even more. They're coming down.
You have to layer in the political atmosphere that's going on. You have to remember, the Conservative Party over in the UK is not what we would consider the Conservative Party is. So the fact that the Conservative Party right now still has a de facto 75% tax on oil and gas production, considering the windfall profits, and the fact that the Labor Party, who's expected to win the next general election, only adds to that fear. There's the opposition leader Kern Starmer has already said he's going to maintain that 75% tax on oil and gas production. So there, as you mentioned, these rigs, when they get done with their drilling contracts, they're leaving. They ain't coming back. They mentioned they go down to Australia, South Africa. They're everywhere.
That's right. Here's some numbers. Over the last 2 decades, the UK oil and gas industry has produced 14.5 billion BOE, but only 6.5 BOE in new field developments have been approved. 45% reserves. This means the gap between total recovery and remaining reserves has closed significantly. The offshore rig count, Michael, 283 producing fields, of which 180 are expected to stop. That's 45% of UK oil. At least 20 fields will stop producing this year. Those numbers are staggering.
Well, what? Hey, we were talking about this before the show. Sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for.
You
All right,
got
what's
that
next?
right. Let's go to the Middle East. Okay, so the thread between all of this is energy security. And now we're seeing that you're going to have oil and gas because nobody's going to be able to do the wind farm. Uranium demand hits decade high as nuclear renaissance gains traction. That's pretty cool. If we're going to get to net zero, which is what my bank account looks like right now, carbon net zero is my bank account. You sit back and kind of go, we're looking for sponsors out there, Michael.
What a way to solicit.
Oh yeah. I've got a sign on my chest. We'll work for sponsors. Rising climate change awareness is a renewed interest in energy. Now, I disagree with that one line in there. It's not we'll work for the climate change awareness. It's people don't want to, they want to be able to heat their homes and put food on the table. And nuclear is the only stable source out there if you're going to throw renewables on the grid.
Yeah, I mean,
Besides
I think what
that,
this
natural gas.
What this article clearly states is that there's an overwhelming shift in the mindset of people to embrace nuclear. Now, is it anywhere near what we need to be in order to achieve what you call this renaissance of carbon net zero? No, it's nowhere close. We're going to need to continue. We're going to need to fix the regulatory. I saw, Bill Maher of all people did a 10-minute long expose on his show last week, specifically talking about articles that we have brought up on Newsbeat in terms of how much renewable energy, specifically renewable energy, is waiting in the regulatory system. There's there's thousands and thousands of megawatts waiting to be approved. If only we could get out of our own way. My only thing with nuclear is that it will end up down this path, and it's the reason why nuclear hasn't been rolled out soon. It's because they continue to die in the regulatory process.
Yep. Hey, I need to reach out to Bill, and since he was a watcher of the show, you gotta love it since he's getting his energy tips from us.
He's slowly getting red pilled. You'll see it. Give him about 5 years, and he'll switch sides completely.
I gotta admit, Bill Maher used to be just a total squirrel. Now he's only an ugly baby, and I mean he's really come a long way as far as a humanitarian goes.
I think what's interesting, though, is and not to get too off topic, but I think somebody like him has been fairly consistent over his entire career. It's the landscape of politics that has completely shifted beyond him.
Great point. I love what he's saying. World Bank warns oil price could soar to $150 a barrel. Michael, I kind of got tickled at this story. It was just kind of crazy. And it starts out describing about the Hamas, the Israeli-Hamas conflict going over there. And it says oil prices could soar to a record high, more than $150 a barrel, if the war between Israel and Hamas leads to the full-scale conflict. However, Michael, we're all sitting here scratching our heads, but they take it one step further. They've got a little... what are those decoder rings that you used to get in Cracker Jacks? Here, yes. Let me go through these. A small disruption scenario, which the global supply would be reduced by 500,000 to 2 million barrels a day, roughly the equivalent reduction seen during the first Libyan war. The oil price would range to $93 to $102 a barrel. At least they backed it up with some data and some stuff. Now let's go to the medium disruption. 3 to 5 million barrels a day if the global supply, and oil prices would rise by 21% to 35%, taking it between 109 and 121. The large disruption would be let's see here, kind of like the Yom Kippur War that just happened, on the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, would result in 56 to 75% increase between 140 and 157.
Man, for Darren Woods, the economy would be doing great then.
Oh, it'd be really good, especially at his house. So my thought process on this article was that they got a crayon out better than Oklahoma State University's, and they had some thought behind it. Now, do I agree with it? No.
I mean, here's the thing. I think, 500,000 to 2 million barrel disruption, that's a pretty big wide range for a small disruption. I think what's interesting is the fact that what do we need to get to these disruptions, which, is the real question, because if we looked at what oil prices did today, seems to me that that small disruption scenario might not even come true. So if we're talking about a P90, P50, P10, what's the P99 look? Because that may be where we're headed in terms of do I see the large disruptions scenario 56 to 75% increase in prices to 140, 157 a barrel? I mean, that seems to me there's going to be need to see some escalation quickly. And maybe the World Bank might know something we don't. Is that coming? Who knows? I do think they've probably laid out a good range of scenarios, though I do think the as is scenario, which is we're kind of in an ambiguous position, in my opinion, is the one I'd vote for.
Right. One thing on these numbers, when I was looking at it, the medium disruption at 109 to 121 is based off of a 3 million to 5 million barrels a day cut in supply. And Iran, when Trump was in office, was doing 500,000 barrels per day. They're now doing 3 million barrels per day. So if Kelsey Graham goes out and has his way and he bombs, I don't want to say the U.S. bombs, but he bombs, boom, there you are. There's that one item in that range. Does it go to the higher price? I don't think so for a long time.
Yeah, I just ran a 23andMe. Lindsey Graham and Darren Woods are actually related. So now I see
no way.
It's a joke. That's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah, I bet they're still related to Janet Yellen. Inflation inflation is transitory. Okay. Russia poised to sharply increase oil exports, but now you got me can't talk. Exports in November. I'll tell you what, this is analysts link the move to maintenance works in several refineries and higher global crude prices. Russia is likely to increase all exports in November. Here's some key numbers, Michael. 200,000 barrel per day increase in next month, reaching up to 3.7 billion barrels per day. That's a bunch.
That is a bunch.
Billion barrels per day. That is a bunch. And here's that's even.
Well, I think what's interesting is this comes in the face of the fact that the next article you're about to cover, which is or one of the articles that we're looking at, is EU looks to expand sanctions on Russia. So I know I'm jumping ahead here, but just the sharp decrease between what's going on the actual ground level, which is Kpler. They're a data provider. They're not going to just say that without having some underlying facts. Well, then why would the EU be looking to increase sanctions? It's almost as if what you've been saying this whole time is absolutely true, Stu. Sanctions don't work.
Oh, absolutely. They don't work. And all they do, Putin laughs. Hey, he laughs all the way to the bank. So anyway, let's go ahead and go to the next article here. Russia's oil exports climb despite commitment to cut supply. Here's where I got a little tickled at this article here a little bit. What politicians actually tells the truth, right? So is it Novak, their head of their oil and energy? Is he over there going, oh, yeah, okay, he's going to do an imitation of Putin. So this is Stuart Turley imitating Novak, who's imitating Putin. Hey, I will cut. Right. So if you sit back and kind of take a look, the 4-week average crude shipments out of Russia were slightly lower than 3.48 million in the week of October 29th, around 20,000 barrels per day compared to the 4-week average the week before. Here's where it goes. Russia has pledged to reduce its oil exports by 300,000 barrels per day until the end of 2023 in a show of solidarity with its OPEC plus partner, Saudi Arabia. They're wanting to help increase the price because Michael, if you remember our article a couple of days, Saudi Arabia wants it at that 120 to 107 to 120 mark. So Russia is saying yes, but they're doing the old shaking their head yes, and your wife is saying, "Did you take the trash out?" And you're going, "Yep, nope, I didn't." So it's pretty interesting when you take a look at this. But what is this is a precursor to the other article you gave a hint at. The EU looks to expand sanctions on Russia. Why did the sanction cross the road? It was to try to penalize somebody, and this was not what happened. I mean, so Bloc has so far imposed 11 packages of restrictions against Moscow over the Ukraine. They are now talking about the next round, which would impact some 5.3 billion in dollars trade with Russia. This is nuts. It's going to they're targeting trying to skirt the bans through third countries. They can't even, manage their way out of a paper bag, let alone a crisis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make it seem like we're standing up for Russia. It's clearly what they're doing in Ukraine is wrong, but it's pretty funny to the level at which we will go to attempt to sanction somebody without really doing it. I mean, they're trying to go after the loopholes in which they're using to get around the current sanctions, but all this rolls into, it's clear sanctions don't work. And if they're able to skirt and get access to the dark fleet, I guarantee now they're going to have access and get around these. So it all comes back to say, like you said, you can say you've passed sanctions on one hand without really enforcing anything on the other.
Oh, it's like President Biden, and I use the word loosely because he doesn't even know he's president. And when you sit back and think, he lessened, do you remember right before we were on this, right as he released the sanctions on the Nord Stream, he goes, "Oh yeah, you guys go ahead, put in the Nord Stream." And then they did not enforce the sanctions on Iran in two different ways. And that went from Trump. Under Trump, they were doing less than 300,000. They were lucky to do the 250,000 to 300,000 in Iran under Trump. Now they're up there with Russia at that 3 million barrel per mark, 3.5 million. This is nuts. So
no, it really is nuts. And I think it goes to show, unfortunately, you've been right from the beginning. Sanctions don't work.